second. Good morning, everybody. Happy July 3rd. It's Ben Cominos. It's outside the box. What? Did you think you were getting a day off just because it's a holiday? I have terrible news for you. I never take a day off. Um, we have a lot to get into here as we approach a holiday. I mean, let's be real. I'm sure we're all thinking the same thing here. How much time is Ben going to dedicate to the wedding to end all weddings in Madison Square Garden? Well, the answer is the entire 2 hours. I'm just so excited for the marriage between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift that I figured this would be the best moment to dedicate a full 2 hours to talking about what I think the dress is going to look like, what I think the decorations to people on TikTok already having a certain reaction, um, what I think the decorations are going to be like, how many people I think are going to be lined up outside. I mean, what else is really happening in America for us to really talk about? I'm joking, of course. It's just that's the kind of embarrassment that I have been viewing across the mainstream media landscape over the course of the last 24 to 48 hours. We're not going to be doing that at all. As Metal Rosie says, who are they? Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that very much. We've got a lot of actual news to get into, that I would like to jump into with all of you guys. Very action-packed morning this morning in the world of Ben. By the way, for those of you listening on Facebook or on, Facebook and YouTube, you may have noticed a little bit difference in the audio quality. This mic is actually hooked up right now. It's not for decorative purposes. This is very real. So we're getting closer here. Going out to buy some posters after I get off from work. They're all going to be childish. They're all going to be horror movie and superhero themed. I figured the home studio is going to have a certain vibe, and then I can't tell you about the professional studio yet, but there's a professional studio happening where it's going to be a little bit more aesthetic, where most of the daytime shows are going to be. And then the Ben After Darks are probably going to be continued to be filmed in my apartment, which I am moving in the middle of August. I am staying, however, in the Fox Valley, for those of you that are interested. So I won't be leaving. I'll still be in Wisconsin. I'll still be doing Wisconsin news, so on and so forth. Good morning to everybody trickling into YouTube. I didn't know what to expect in terms of turnout on a July 3rd. I'm assuming most of you have the day off. I even got a call from a friend of mine at 8:57. I just answered the phone, went 3 minutes, and they were like, "You're doing a show today?" I said, "I don't get holidays. I'm employed. I'm self-employed." Um, Allie saying low key need me back in PA. I'll get there eventually, but I did tell my dad yesterday on the phone it's probably going to be a while before my next PA trip at this point. Um, Anna saying the stripes on the Jack Skellington are giving a Pugsley vibe. I dig that. I dig that. And by the way, Anna, I don't know if you saw this, but so I'm working on theming here. There's going to be a pumpkin theme for the home studio here as I sift through my decorations here. Rusty says Princess Diana wedding was the last wedding that interested them. Oh, my stripes. I thought you meant Jack Skellington stripes over there. But you're saying the stripes with the Jack Skellington. Got it. I'm thin though. Pugsley's like main identifying feature is that he's heavy set. So I disagree. But that's where I come down on that. I disagree. Um yeah, but the Princess Diana wedding, what's funny is that my mom loved that woman. I had so many Princess Diana books and articles all over my house. She was just infatuated with that woman, as I think a lot of people were in that era, I'll be honest. Um Not me. Not me. Couldn't have cared less. I actually think it's very unwoke to be in favor of royalty, and I do count that royalty as well, what do you call them? As Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift as well. Like that's basically the royal couple of America, and the idea that you can be born into royalty in 2026, like that feels like a Republican belief. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't feel like something liberals or leftists should be championing. So like Anybody talking in your life about the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift thing, tell them that it's not they're not being very woke, you know? It's a big deal. And by the way, what's up, Violet? What's up, Elf? Yeah, and technically, like for those of you listening on the TikTok right now, the microphone's not even actually hooked up. I do have these puppies that are still in the plastic that I could hook to my shirt and then hook into the phone, which will probably be what I do next week to improve the quality there, assuming it doesn't interfere. I don't know if having a mic that close to a mic is going to have a negative. I have no idea. You got somebody saying Chiefs are cooked, Colts are a laughing stock, Ravens can't get it together. Are you trying to tell me the Steelers are going to win? Because I'm here for that. Rosie says Chainsaw Massacre, Jaws, Goodfellas, The Warriors, Spider-Man, Batman, Guardians of the Galaxy for posters. Interesting, interesting. All good suggestions. I'm gonna search it up and down. We'll find out. No, Renzer, no takebacks. I'm taking that as a guaranteed Steelers Super Bowl coming from you. I'm glad you're that optimistic. Um, but you just need an adapter. Well, no, I mean, unless I can plug it into two things at the same time. It's currently plugged into my Mac right now. So once everything's coming out of uh the same place, then the mic will be connected into everything. But right now the mic is only connected into my Mac. I have the adapter, it's connected into the Mac. It should sound crisper. I was told I sounded like a mixture of Barry White and James Earl Jones yesterday. Ali saying once the OBS is set up, it'll be fine. Which I was sending pictures of what the OBS setup looks like to some of you guys. I think you guys thought I was being hyperbolic. Some of the instructions are literally written in Chinese. Like, not to mention, I don't even know how to use a Mac. So, like, I'm learning how to use a Mac and I'm learning how to install OBS. And so, like, if like you guys had access to my Google searches, you would be mocking me so bad because it would be like I'll be watching a YouTube video on how to set up OBS. I'll be like, so you want to download these files? And then I pull out my iPad and I search, how do I download files on a Mac? Because obviously the video is not going to go that in depth. It assumes I'm not a moron, but I am literally using a Mac for my first time this week. I bought it a week ago. Slowly acclimating myself to it. Oh, we got a Seahawks fan in there. Okay. Okay. I don't have anything about the Seahawks. Sorry about Super Bowl 40. But I don't have anything against the Seahawks. What's up, Kay? Thanks for being here. John, what's up? Sella says, good morning, all. We celebrate each of you, reckon our national history, and try to find unity and diversity. Absolutely love that. Um, I'm here for that. Absolutely. Uh, Absolutely welcome that. And by the way, I keep mentioning it, and I'll probably make a couple of posts over the weekend to remind you, but I'm just excited that even without the call letters behind my name, when it comes to the most trustworthy name in news, it's still outside the box in Northeast Wisconsin. We are doing our first gubernatorial candidate interview post outside the box on the radio. Kelda Royce is going to be on this program 10 a.m. Monday. That's 10 a.m. Central Time for the people not listening in Wisconsin right now. And we're going to be starting with a conversation. I think the gubernatorial race has received quite a shakeup in the last 24 hours. And if you haven't seen the news, I'll be diving into that in just a moment. Violet saying football's dumb. Go Braves. Get out of here. Although I did watch the Braves quite a bit because the Pirates suck and the Braves were always on TBS, which we always had. Like Chipper Jones and who was it? Andrew Jones and Greg Maddux and what was the guy's name who said a bunch of racist stuff? John Rocker maybe. Like I watched all those guys. But still, go Pirates, go Steelers, more importantly. But in any event, Kelda Royce is going to be on the program 10 a.m. Monday, which has me very excited. Left Wing Gorillas, what is going wrong at Civic Media? I don't have any affiliation with them. I was actually reached out to by somebody in charge of hiring with Civic Media. Literally the day I got fired last Monday. and they told me they essentially weren't looking, they were transitioning into internet and shorts and things like that versus long form talk. That is the only thing that I know, and they said they'd be in touch with me, and I haven't heard from them since that day. So it's been about it seems like they're going through their own shit right now, about 11 days. I mean, realistically, I'm not a misery loves company kind of guy, but it is kind of highlighting exactly the state of the radio industry when you see the layoffs at iHeart. Obviously, we lost the best local talent in Northeast Wisconsin maybe has ever seen, and obviously the civic media stuff going on as well. Massive changes in the infrastructure. It turns out the only people who are safe are the far right wingers that accuse Governor Walz of coordinating a hit job on a state representative who ended up losing their life to political violence. As long as you're doing that, you continue to keep having your own radio show. Anything else, if you highlight that the masked Virgin Army is unaliving people in the streets, if you highlight that the Trump administration is the most corrupt presidential administration in American history, if you highlight any of the things going wrong under the Trump administration, those seem to be the people that are losing their jobs right now. I'm sure that's a coincidence and not implying anything that I could be sued for. Um, but nevertheless, gubernatorial candidate on my program, 10 a.m. Monday. I'll have a couple of reminder posts. And for those of you on social media, actually, I only just figured out how to share my screen a little bit ago. Um, let me get this all situated first before I do that, though. But for those of you that don't follow me on social media, I want to show you the chart. I also have it up on my YouTube page as well. Oh, and by the way, shout out to the people at Minocqua Brewing. Thank you so much for allowing me to stream through what you guys are doing there as well. And anybody who's listening to me, it's a free opportunity to subscribe to Minocqua Brewing. Much as I suggest that you join what I'm doing on all of my socials, please consider checking out the Minocqua Brewing Company's stuff as well. They too are providing a voice for independent media to be able to say the things that they want to say, which is becoming a less and less common thing in 2026. But that's at least my attitude there. Congratulations, Susan, on passing 15,000 subscribers on your YouTube page. That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. And you do great work helping people deal with some of the hardest moments in their lives. So that's great news, and I'm very happy for what you're accomplishing there. Um, but I do want to show you guys, and unfortunately on TikTok, you can check out the TikTok that I posted there. But a chart was put up um, as I allow the share entire screen. There we go. I think you guys should be able to see my screen right now on YouTube and Facebook starting on Monday, assuming I don't hit any snags with OBS over the weekend. Everybody should be seeing the same thing starting on Monday, and like I'm halfway there. I got OBS installed. Now I need to figure out how to do the multi-stream plugin, one thing at a time here. But so I'm throwing a chart up on my page right now. And if you look at it, and I'll actually just flip my live around here so that you guys can I just like flip the camera without like physically spinning it around? Yeah, there we go. Um, so yeah, so this is what we're looking at right now for all of you guys. These 5 lines that you are seeing on your screen right now represent 5 Democrats in the party right now. Some of them are on the national scene, some of them are on the statewide scene, but these are the 5 most people and the people that are perceived to be the leaders of the Democratic Party. I'm interested in who you guys think each line represents. So go on my Facebook, go on my TikTok, go on my YouTube, leave a comment. Tell me who you think each one of these lines represents. And eventually, I do know the answer, by the way. This isn't a hypothetical. This isn't an exercise that isn't going to have an answer. There is an answer here. And yes, that is, as Ali says, is this just Google search data? Yes. These are the people looking up each person. So it's not the most scientific data ever, but it doesn't change the fact that these are the people being searched and their prevalence within the Democratic Party. So punch your answers in on whatever streaming service that you're using, and I'm interested in who you all think the let me see here. How do I did it not share? Was I supposed? I think I was supposed to do this, right? I think I was supposed to do this, and then you guys would have been able to see it. I'm still learning how to share my screen on StreamYard. Obviously, it's not perfect yet, so I'll say again, these are the 5 lines. There is no identifier on them. I'm interested who you think each one of them is a Democrat, though. And I'm interested who you think each line represents, who people think is the leader right now. Of the Democratic Party. As Ali says, it doesn't have to be scientific to be accurate. I'm absolutely going to tell your forensic professors that when I find them. But so take it in. If you guys haven't seen this chart, it is available on all of my services. So go ahead and give it a more in-depth look. But that is the exercise. I want to start posting some things that kind of drives a little bit more of you guys to interact with me there. So okay, it didn't work the first time. It worked the second time. I'm learning. We're getting there, though. Chris says, who do you want to lead the Democratic Party and why? I've been saying for a while now, Chris, I don't believe the future leader of the Democratic Party is currently in the Democratic Party. I think there's a lot of people that show potential, but I don't know if they're there yet. I wouldn't be surprised if a dark horse emerges. And for the record, I feel the same thing. People are acting like it's a foregone conclusion between J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio for the Republican Party, and I'm here to tell you right now that I don't necessarily buy that. Um, I have a feeling that there could be 2 candidates coming out of right and left field for their respective parties, and I'm here for it. But if I had to pick, AOC shows some promise. As even though he's a billionaire, I am interested in Pritzker's platform in Illinois and would like to hear a little bit more about it because, as I often say, even though I don't trust billionaires, FDR was one of the most, is in my opinion, probably the best president of the 20th and 21st century. Not to say he didn't have his faults. And he was also one of the wealthiest people in the country when he was creating all of the best social programs that a lot of us kind of depend on today. So I, at one point, was writing off Pritzker just based on the idea that he's a billionaire, but I am willing to at least entertain him as a candidate going forward. Not an endorsement. That's just my attitude towards him right now. As Jarmani says, and that's one of my dark horses from the right. She says if Tucker Carlson doesn't run on the right, I'll be surprised, and I would agree. I have a feeling he's going to end up running, and I have a feeling he's going to be popular. He's willing to say the things about our allies in the Middle East that a lot of people aren't willing to say. Not to say he's not going to do the neo-Yahtzee stuff. But that's it. It's interesting. I see Violated Elf saying Hunter Biden for president. You know what's funny is I have a feeling a lot of libs are actually going to be championing that. And nothing personal if you were being serious there. I personally don't buy into that. What's up, Sensei? I personally don't buy into that, but we'll see. Bavino, I don't think Bavino has the cachet, Rusty. Jen saying she's watching Ossoff. I feel like Ossoff I need to learn a lot more about, but he's definitely showing some possibility there for sure that I'm interested in. Rusty saying he's got 800 grand from APAC. Well, that's going to be an issue, and that's actually a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about today. As some people are saying, I like Hunter Biden for non-political reasons. I get that. I get that. But let me jump into the first story of the day here, then, or at least first real story of the day. And by the way, thank you for being here on July 3rd. I recognize a lot of you guys are thinking fireworks. A lot of you guys are thinking party. A lot of you are thinking boozing out in the sunshine and water. Not a lot of people are thinking let's look forward into the world of politics as we devolve into whatever this is. By the way, I'm hoping once OBS is set up, I can share video. Have you guys seen the video of the America 250 stage almost collapsing in on that woman, the women who were dancing? And it was definitely at a height that had it landed on someone, I have a feeling that story would be getting a lot more notoriety. I don't even want to see Kamala Harris's name written into my chat, Rusty. I know you agree with that, but that woman, she had her shot, and her shot was when they cleared out the entire field and forced her upon us, and she still couldn't even win a single swing state. So that is over. And anybody thinking otherwise, and I don't believe you do, Rusty, because I know who you are. But so speaking of that APEC money, if you guys didn't see it yesterday, um, there was an event held in Wisconsin. We're starting in on the Wisconsin gubernatorial race. There was an event held in Wisconsin um, for all of the gubernatorial candidates. And it was held by the Muslim Alliance of Wisconsin, who I have a relationship with and am interested in trying to get. And yes, Thumper, the stage falling apart was part of the whatever the 250 celebration is called. It's dry run rehearsals. It's obviously not the real thing. But yeah, it's a metaphor for this presidency, realistically. But so um let me get rid of this share screen. It's distracting me here. There we go. So, the Wisconsin Muslim Civic Alliance hosted a forum for the gubernatorial candidates. The questions were written by the Muslim community of Wisconsin and sent in advance so that all of the candidates knew what they were going to be answering when they showed up. And if you haven't seen the picture, 4 candidates showed up. And I think that this one moment, to Rusty's point, I think this one moment is going to reshuffle the deck in terms of favorability in the race, at least in my opinion. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe enough of the centrists are still going to go with the people that didn't show up, but let's go through it all, shall we? The 4 candidates that were there, and like no disrespect to Mr. Brennan of Governor Evers' staff, he has the largest ad buy. He was the first one to buy into TV ads. I'm interested how many of you guys have been seeing them because I don't watch a whole lot of TV these days. So I'm online more so than anything. I still really don't know anything about the guy outside of the limited times that I see him pop up on my feeds as I get, but he does have an opportunity to come on this show and be interviewed, and we can all learn about him for sure. But so the 4 candidates were Mr. Brennan, and then Mandela Barnes, Francesca Hong, and Kelda Royce. Both David Crowley and Sarah Rodriguez both decided not to show up for the event hosted again by the Muslim Civic Alliance, where the questions were provided. It is being reported at the last minute there were negotiations that asking about the big G, which I can't say because of TikTok, but you guys know what G word I'm talking about, taking place in Gaza. Asking about the big G shouldn't be a yes or no question. The WMCA stood firm that questions of morality are truly yes or no questions, meaning, do you believe what's happening is the big G or don't you? The 2 campaigns said they would meet privately with the organization. This is according to Wajaha Akhtar Khalil. I've seen and lived this before, and it was incredibly demoralizing. In 2024, we watched a presidential campaign refuse to engage Muslims publicly while we were shuffled into private rooms for backdoor meetings. As someone who experienced this, I can tell you how deeply degraded it is to be told behind closed doors that you matter while being ignored, or worse, insulted in public. You're treated as a liability instead of a constituent. It screams that your votes are wanted, but your faces are not. Our money, our labor, our turnout are welcomed, but not our humanity out loud on a stage will be too costly to win. That calculation lost in 2024, and it will keep losing. Excuse me. I have a feeling that that might be the death knell for the Sarah Rodriguez campaign. I don't know that for a fact, but I have a feeling that the big 3 going forward might be the 3 that were on that list within the Democratic Party, because otherwise, what does the Democratic Party even really stand for at that point? And David Crowley, who already was struggling, and I see your comments, Sharon and Kay, I will get to those, I promise. Um, David Crowley fell into the trap. If you guys haven't noticed, and I've kind of been talking about it, but the Journal Sentinel has fallen into the trap of Hassan Piker says America deserved September 2001. Wisconsin Public Radio has fallen into the trap of Hassan Piker said America deserved September 2001. And David Crowley posted it as well. And it really is a shame, because far be it for me to play identity politics specifically surrounding two identities that I do not count myself as, but the parallels between what the people of Palestine are forced to go through in their region and what the black community has had to go through in America for the better part of our entire existence are pretty difficult to avoid. And for him to go for the cheap thrills of Hassan Piker said America deserved September 2001. When, if you haven't listened to my Wednesday show, you can go back and listen to it. It's all archived on that. I'm not a simp, Chris. I just have a basic capacity for deductive reasoning. Um, if you know what I was going to say, go back and listen, but just to kind of walk you through what's going on here, it's pretty easy to say that America's foreign policy in the lead up to September 2001 is what ultimately resulted in that day happening. You can say that and not say you think it was deserved or that you're happy that it happened or that you think that the people were in the right, but you can say that you can watch the path towards what led to that day and be like, oh no, that ultimately is that should have been expected. We can't act that way in other people's countries, just bombing with impunity, taking the lives of literally over 1.5 Muslim individuals and expect no form of retaliation. I can sit here and champion being anti-violent while at the same time acknowledging, like, yeah, no, we should have expected some kind of retaliation like that. So I mean, the idea that you have to be a Hassan simp to understand that basic capacity for deductive reasoning, I think just shows me the limits of your own ability to look inward and understand the complex nature of foreign policy. You can't surround the world with defense bases, take people's resources, take the lives of the people that live there, and expect everything to be hunky dory. You want to stay or one state solution, or should Israel just learn to do better politics with them? I just think Palestinians shouldn't be second class citizens. Plain and simple. I think every country has the right to exist, um, or should exist in peace, and it's not rocket science. Like, you can't have streets that Palestinians aren't allowed to be on. You can't have, when that fateful day in October of 2023 happened, there were 2,500 Palestinians sitting in jail in our allies in the Middle East jails. Of the 2,500, over 1,200 of them were sitting out there without evidence, cause, or conviction. They were withheld from family, they were withheld from friends, they were withheld from lawyers. If you're asking me, can a two-state solution exist? Yes, but you don't get to do Guantanamo Bay to an entire population of people and expect that to be viewed as even, or Israel or our allies in the Middle East defending themselves. I refuse to pretend that I don't see what's happening right in front of my face. And I can't tell if you're a troll or if you're actually engaging sincerely right now, but I feel like I've laid out a pretty comprehensive and intellectual argument for why I feel the way that I feel. And the idea that anybody would go on Hassan Piker's show to do an interview automatically labels them as anti Semitic or anti America, I think is cheap right wing talking points. So when NPR parrots them, when the Journal Sentinel parrots them, when a black man from Milwaukee running in one of the most liberal cities on the planet parrots them, I question how much they're actually paying attention to the news and how much they actually know about the situation. And so and I appreciate all the gifts from people who are handing them in here. And so when two of the six mainline Democratic candidates for governor don't show up to a he forum with the Muslim Alliance of Wisconsin, I question how seriously they're taking the race. And I have a feeling you're going to see a major shift take place in the order of things. Because, Chris, if you're not listening in Wisconsin, it's kind of been a foregone conclusion. Mandela Barnes and Francesca Hong are making up the left. Um, Sarah Rodriguez is representing the Kamala Harris Center, and everybody else is kind of irrelevant. And I have a feeling that you're going to see Kelda Royce shoot up in the ranks, and you're going to see Sarah Rodriguez plummet. As a result, Crowley already wasn't polling too well, but I have a feeling you're going to see a little bit of a changing of the guard there as things continue to shift. So something tells me you left long ago because you didn't like hearing a little bit of the reality of the situation. That's fine. People, trust me. If I know one thing, people will not listen to your show if they will demand your show be removed if you say stuff that they don't agree with. And by the way, Sharon said in regard to our leaders of the Democratic Party conversation, Sharon says, I like Mayor Pete Buttigieg. He's brilliant and well spoken, but unfortunately gay, which I don't think he could win. We can't elect a female president, let alone a gay man. Unfortunate. I feel like there's a lot of things running against him, honestly. Um, Ali Bree guesses that AOC and Mom Donnie are up the top. And thank you, Tim, for the Venmo donation. I appreciate you very much. You're fantastic. I appreciate the support from everybody and anyone who's looking to chip in for an independent creator. If you look at my link tree, which is available on my links on my Facebook page as well as my YouTube page, my Venmo is available there. So anyone that wants to throw a couple bucks my way, again, not crying poverty, but like I have some advertisers lined up, but that's probably not going to kick off until September. So I'm just kind of bare bones in it through July and August here. So if anyone has a couple bucks to throw my way, there's a link tree available on the YouTube and the Facebook. So please do help me out there. But so Mayor Pete is an interesting case, Sharon. I say the only time I ever feel like I lost in an interview is against Pete Buttigieg. The guy's incredibly bright, well spoken, and he walks circles around me when I interviewed him on my radio show. I do think there's a lot of red flags against him, and I think he's centrist liberal politics personified. A lot of fluff and positivity without a lot of backing behind it. But I also believe, and I've been making this joke for the last 2 years, I think the DNC has Pete in a lab right now, pumping him full of the exact right percentage of leftist attitudes to say to the public. So maybe he ends up coming out, but his affiliation with McKinley, the hedge fund, his attitudes, and again, I don't know if Democrats are going to be able to win without disavowing our allies, at least in the immediate future. I think it's a prevalent enough issue. And I've said it on my radio show, and I'll say it again. I wish the retirement age generated the same kind of fervor that Israel Palestine did. I wish the impact of Reaganomics impacted us the same way that the conversation of the Middle East is impacting us. Like, I wish there were economic policies because I think a lot of people listen. They say it's happening halfway around the world. Why does it matter? It matters. It matters because it's who we are. And I just think, as an actual anti-war leftist, I need to believe that the people representing us in the Democratic Party exhibit anti-war beliefs. And I just don't know that I believe that the Democratic Party is capable of that right now in its current standing. There's a lot of people that say that leftists should break off and start their own party. I get mocked when I say I don't think they're ready for that yet. But I get why people think that. I absolutely do. KG's asking a Pritzker AOC ticket. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. What's up, Craig from TikTok? John says they have their Francesca Hong sign up. Mallory says she won't vote for any Zionist presidential candidate. Killer K Demons says it reminds me of the crystal knocked. Which part? Um, Ben, I supported our allies in the Middle East all my life. Not anymore. I can't unsee what I've seen. Well, that's the interesting part about it, right? And I say that just with media in general. Like, Susan, you say you can't unsee what you've seen. You know how I can't unsee what I've seen is from a media perspective. Because since we have social media, I know. I love that Ali calls AOC and Mamdani the Bernie babies. I can get behind that. But I saw the media pretend like they didn't know what they were looking at. I saw them provide cover for some of the most egregious atrocities, and then I'm supposed to believe that they're telling me the truth the rest of the time. This is why I always say the only difference between Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN is a lawsuit. Like Fox News was sued for spreading misinformation, and rightfully so. They tried to spread that what took place. I can't say election frogs because if I say the word that rhymes with, I get censored. I found out, but Fox News deserved to be sued for what they did and the craziness that they caused, and the fact that in 2026 people are still just asking questions about 2020 is predominantly Fox News and Donald Trump's fault. So they absolutely deserve what ended up happening to them. MSNBC and CNN should be sued for their coverage of what took place in Gaza. Because it's disgusting that they thought they could get away with it in an era when all we had to do was open our phones. And rather than change how they were covering it, they just decided to have their CEOs buy the rest of our social media so that none of us could see what was happening anywhere. But unfortunately, a large enough percentage of us were kind of knocked off that track in a way that we're willing to call it out for what we see now. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate the Venmo. You guys are awesome. Seriously, like it's overwhelming that you guys are willing to do that kind of stuff. Um, Trump brought Bin Laden's dream right into the East Wing. Sorry, these comments are rolling pretty quickly here. I'm way behind. Yeah, Shapiro. I mean, I'm from Pennsylvania, and Shapiro leaves a lot to be desired as well. I think he's going to crush the governor's race just because he wasn't primaried. Um, and Mallory says she won't vote for transphobe Newsom. I dig that. Thoughts on Chorus and the 1630 fund? I'm honestly not super familiar, Scoop. I'd have to look into that more, and I don't really pew pew from the hip if you know me. But I can look into that. Somebody screenshot that on TikTok and send it through the Discord chat, please. Moondog says earlier this year, Congress voted to exclude offensive weapons to our allies, and it failed. Of course it did. Of course it did. And we were supposed to be excited because it came closer to passing than ever, but still failed, which is exactly how the Democratic Party works. Killer K Demon says he couldn't vote for Shapiro for president. I think a lot of people do. And that's what's funny. I used to do this show with the professors, one of which is a Jewish man, and he would say, he would talk about Shapiro as one of his favorites, and he said, but I don't think the progressive left would be willing to vote for a Jew for president. Meanwhile, like the king of the progressive left for the last 20 years was Bernie Sanders. Like the idea that it's all coming from hate or anger, I think is very easily disproven, especially as I know the majority of people who are watching this show right now have been with me for a long time. A handful of you are newer to the party, but probably can still tell what I'm about. But I think you can tell I'm a pretty accepting dude. I never do anything from a position of hate or frustration. And I just know what I'm looking at in the Middle East. And I think pretending otherwise and then vilifying people that go on their show. Again, I did the segment 2 days ago. The Guardian used to have bin Laden's letter ready to read for anybody who wanted to read it. After the aftermath of October 2023, everybody went and read the letter. We were all like, wait a minute, all this stuff was happening in the lead up to September 2001. Why doesn't anybody tell this part of the story? Why do we always hear that they were after our freedoms? Why do we always hear that it was because they didn't like that we were so free and we were doing all these things that they couldn't? Why doesn't anyone tell this part of the story? And when people started waking up to that, rather than having the conversation, the Guardian responded by getting rid of the letter. You can still find it, but it's a lot harder to find than it was post October 23. It's not an accident. Um, I feel that. Susan says she stayed home for Hillary and Trump first time. I did. Well, I went, but I wrote in and I wrote in Batman. So I don't think my guy was even close. Yeah, it definitely wasn't the freedom aspect. It's a BS line of thinking, but that's what they told us when we were kids. Big debate going on the tube of you right now about whether or not voting for the lesser of two evils or staying home and trying to force the kind of leftward change you think is a better strategy. I don't really like, I shouldn't say I don't have an opinion on that. I voted for Harris. I hated myself for it, but I voted for Harris. Um, but I don't know that I would again. I'd have to be in the situation because I know what's happening is objectively horseshit. By the way, thank you to everybody who's sending me the videos saying that if you swear, it actually means you're more trustworthy and have a bigger vocabulary than people that don't. I'm trying my best not to, but now that I know swearing implies trustworthiness, um, I don't know. Mickey says, same, Ben, same. Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at with it. And I hope you're enjoying. I know you love this holiday, Mickey, so I hope you're going to enjoy this weekend. Mallory says, I will vote, but I'll vote third party over this crap platter that Dems present. Well, I'm holding out hope. Although the fact, and I kind of covered that earlier in the week, that they're saying they're going after this mythical right wing voter who's mad at Donald Trump about the economy. They'd rather try and appeal to that than the leftists who are winning elections all over the country right now. Shows that I don't think a lot of lessons have been learned yet, and we still have a long way to go before we see the Democrats embrace the people that are actually the base of their party. I want to see if I'm missing any comments on Facebook because I have just done nothing but actively discourage listening on Facebook lately because until I have it, fake Ben, get out of here. All right. Um, when we were talking about who's the leaders of the Democratic Party, he says, one guy, Ken says, how about Ben? Which maybe one day. Um, And Shaggy says, typical quorum. Nice, Jack Skellington. I appreciate that. And I assume that's you right there in the YouTube chat as well. Yeah, I'm working on it here. We're getting there. Yeah, fake Ben was, did you hear him talking there? It's is that how I sound to you guys? Swearing also helps with stress regulation, without a doubt. That's why it was extra excessive in the immediate aftermath of being laid off. But it has tapered back into my normal layers of swearing again. I'm telling you, I got a dozen or so comments that like I love your show and I intend to support you, but I don't know if I can support you if you keep cussing as much as you are. I'm like, well, if that's the driving force, then you know. But I'm working on it. I feel like I've made strides, so we'll see what happens. Crypto says, I'm a rep. I'm glad I found you because I can learn from you compared to the rest. I appreciate that, Crypto. I'm glad you found me too. Um, yeah, it is Boomer Talk, Sensei. You're not wrong. But told a certain radio station when I was hired that if you bring me here, I'm going to bring young people to the station, and I did. There's freaking college students listening to me right now on TikTok. Like I brought younger people to the station, but that doesn't mean that 70% of my audience wasn't still over the age of 55 and used to a different type of delivery. And what's funny is every person who was commenting on my cussing did find a way to work that into the message. They're like, look, I know I'm out of touch and this might be a little more normal for your generation, but I'm just not used to hearing it. Moondog says, like that scene in Apocalypse Now, we napalm kids but censor vulgarity painted on the bombs. Exactly. Wasn't that the whole point of the South Park movie from the late 90s? Like, we start a full blown war with Canada, and there's just dismembered people everywhere and violence everywhere. But and then Kyle's mom is like, remember, over the top, deplorable violence is okay as long as nobody's saying any naughty words. And I'm pretty sure that was the whole point. And that was in 1998, and here we are in 2026, and not a whole hell of a lot has changed. This is the only show where you get high level political commentary mixed with the subtext of the South Park movie, all embroiled in a conversation about whether or not the big G is happening in Gaza. I hope you guys appreciate it because it's only a matter of time before these websites censor me too. But so, interesting choice. Back to the main point of the conversation. Interesting choice by the candidates who chose not to show up. And I'd be interested. I don't have the metrics on it, but I have a feeling if we looked, the APAC dollars might be flowing into a handful of candidates and not all of them. I think this has only furthered, in my opinion, Francesca Hong's chances of winning, which I think are pretty good. I was kind of anticipating some, and after I just go on a long diatribe about me cussing, I have been anticipating some 2020 fuckery going on, similar to what they did to Bernie Sanders, where there were 20 candidates and 17 of them dropped out, threw their weight behind Joe Biden, and the only one that stayed in was Elizabeth Warren. And Elizabeth Warren stayed in because she knew that her voters might become Bernie voters if she dropped out. So she stayed in to split the Bernie vote while the centrist vote dropped out and consolidated around Biden. Thankfully, they did that. Otherwise, we might not have to deal with Trump right now. Meanwhile, you look at the Wisconsin primary. Obviously, not the same in terms of the numbers, but I kind of anticipated the centrist vote kind of beginning to coalesce as things shook out. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Kelda shoot through the ranks. And for the record, this isn't because she agreed to come on my show. Here's Sarah Rodriguez's card. We met in person when I spoke to the 7th District Dems back in May. I fully intend to get her on the program and ask these questions myself. And I'm sure she'll be willing to come on and have that conversation. But just to be clear, I recognize that it might seem suspicious that Kelda agrees to come on the show. This is all happenstance. It just happens that they chose to blow off the Muslim Alliance. David Crowley earlier in the week chose to condemn Francesca Hong for going on Hassan Piker's show. And Sarah Rodriguez chose not to show up either. Please do, Killer Demons. I welcome any and all insight. Ro Khanna, Rusty, is up there. He's actually been on my show before. He agreed to go on a show in Appleton, Wisconsin on talk radio to get his message out there about a year ago. I'm pretty sure it's still available on my Spotify page if you want to go and listen to it. Just type in Ro Khanna Ben Cominos. I have to believe it's the first thing that pops up. But yeah, I do like a lot of what I hear from him. I think he's a good dude. I think he's got a lot of good ideas. I think he speaks a lot of truth to power, and I hope he's gearing up for a run. He's on the right side of the conflict in the Middle East. He's on the right side of Jeffrey and the island. He's on the right side of economics. He's on the right side of healthcare. And by the right side, I mean the left side. In case you were wondering, I don't mean the literal right side. I think he's got a lot of good policy out there. Yeah, I'll try and find them and put them on YouTube. I'm also considering resharing. I also have an interview with Francesca Hong available on my YouTube page. Um, to go along with the Kelda Royce interview. I will try to reach out to Hong to get her on my independent show, but I also know that she's got a pretty full plate and she's already given me a half hour of her time. So I don't want to be greedy, but I wouldn't mind talking to her one more time in this capacity where I'm not kind of beholden to the FCC airwaves rules. But only time will tell on that front. But I'm going to get everybody who wants to come on. And it does speak volumes to me that Kelda Royce's comms director reached out to me to come on this show because it just says to me that well, let's just say when it comes to who the audience of Northeast Wisconsin trusts to get their political information from, it's nice to know that I'm still high up on that list in the eyes of a lot of people, which is great. So with that, okay. What are you saying here? Ro Khanna has proven to listen to voters and adjust his ways. I like that about him. Rusty says, yes, he has done good work. That's what it's all about. We always jump on people. Remember, that was one of the main knocks against John Kerry. And I'm not implying John Kerry's a good candidate or that he should be running. Nothing like that. But the main knock against someone is being a flip-flopper. And it's like, I would hope if you had ideas, if you had preconceived notions, and then new information were made available for those preconceived notions, and then you decided that you had a different opinion based on the new information that made itself available to you, that that would be championed by the voting population and not ostracized. Whereas it seems as though um, it's almost viewed as a negative if you're willing to change your mind or have an opinion on things like that. Unless you're Donald Trump, in which case you're just actively allowed to do whatever you want. Um, and people just be like, nah, that's what he always said. And away we go. Case in point, and I did this segment for my evening crew last night because I kind of test some of my content out during the evenings. And if you're not joining us for Ben After Dark, I don't do it Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, so there won't be a new edition until Monday. But we go 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time, way more laid back, longer pauses, much more interactive with the chats across all spectrum, across all platforms, and it's not even all politics. We'll devolve into conversations about music, pizza, movies, sports, whatever is kind of going on in that moment. We watched the freaking soccer game 2 days ago, first full soccer game I ever watched. Jen says my views have completely changed over the last 2 years, or I just woke up and deconstructed. I'm kind of, I'm filed in the same category in a lot of ways. Yet no one flip flops more than Trump K, and yet they don't seem to care. But God forbid you got a D next to your name and flip flop. Have you guys seen that everybody's? I am on Instagram and X, Craig, but like my Instagram is just a reflection of my Facebook, and my X I barely use anymore. Elon Musk sucks, but I am on there to find news and whatnot. So just search my name and I'm there. But yeah, it's embarrassing the Trump flops, or flip flops. How often he does it, and then they just pretend like it doesn't happen, and we're just supposed to go along with that, which blows my mind that he keeps getting away with it in ways that his and like if he were delivering economically, that would be one thing, but he's not. Like he has objectively failed in every capacity, and flip-flops and lies and enriches himself and gives money to Argentina and starts a new war and cuts taxes for the rich while making our lives even more expensive than it already is. And yet they don't even budge a little bit. Like this doesn't even have to do with what I was about to bring up. Hold on, TikTok thinks I'm a robot. Bang, I'm not. Mother Hubbards, I'm a person. Case in point, and I'm sorry for the Bush League approach. Hopefully, this is the last day. Rusty says McConnell 2028. How about McConnell Sunday? Thank you, sir. Um, Here's the Nancy Pelosi stock trader. 1.7 million followers on Twitter. All right. It tells you exactly what trade she's doing, how much money she has made off of it, and if you want to become rich yourself, it allows you to know what you should be investing in, because Nancy Pelosi has an interesting knack for being right about the stock market all the time. Now, I have been very vocal about my frustration. I am not a Nancy Pelosi guy. I do think she's corrupt, and I believe insider trading is the way that politicians take bribes without actually taking bribes. They give favorable legislation to the CEOs and companies, and in return, the companies get major investments, and then their stock portfolios go up, and that's how they ultimately enrich themselves. Thankfully, Donald Trump also has a stock tracker for, oh, whoops, never mind. Elon Musk and Twitter decided to block it. So it turns out Nancy Pelosi's stock trading is a major scandal and indicative of a much wider Democratic fraud and corruption problem. But Donald Trump's stock portfolio trading is an invasion of his privacy and should not be infringed upon in any way. And we're going to delete that so that nobody is able to continue following along. This is real. This is real. And it only got to 77,000 followers. That's how quickly they took it down. Because they were like, oh, son of a bitch, we're going to highlight the overt and obvious corruption of the sitting president of the United States. It's fine when it's the Wicked Witch of the West, Nancy Pelosi, and the Democrats, but also MAGA's a bunch of little baby snowflakes that cry like little words that I'm not going to say right now because I've matured as a person. We'll just say, see you next Tuesday. Anytime you highlight that their orange dad president is doing something that they have just been bitching about for the last 4 years. And if you think I'm making that up, bear with me here as I find the Reuters reporting. Okay, so I'm sure if you're listening to me, yeah, rhymes with witches. If you're listening to me, you have probably seen the reporting on Donald Trump and his crypto rug pull, right? The Trump meme. He's enriched himself to the tune of $1.2 billion just off of the meme. He also is $2 billion richer over the course of a 12-month period, some of which is just flagrant corruption, other of which is straight up exploiting his own voter base. Because again, I have said multiple times, I believe we're in a post-corruption America. If a candidate got us Medicare for all and stopped the conflict in the Middle East, and I found out that they were doing insider trading, I was like, well, it's the least they can do for themselves. Have you seen all the good shit happening in my life? This is great. And I don't want to put myself in a box, no pun intended, when inevitably a candidate that I love is caught doing corruption. Case in point, I did a segment about it yesterday. Zohran Mamdani said, turn your air conditioning to 78 degrees. And immediately Ted Cruz, Tim Burchett, and the rest of the MAGA sycophants all go on social media and start calling him a communist, start calling him a socialist, saying, in first world countries, we use our air conditioners. And then meanwhile, the exact same day, the exact same hour, there were declarations from 13 different red states all saying, set your air conditioners to 78 degrees, and not a peep from any of them because you cannot take the MAGAs even remotely fucking seriously. And I'm sorry that I ever even pretended that there were 3 brain cells for them to all share. And I'm so happy to be liberated in a way that I can say, if you're not going to be consistent, waka waka MAGA, you might be a couple of fucking morons. Case in point, Reuters is reporting, and I'm going to go into a direct quote right here. If Trump was putting his name behind it, this is one woman who invested in Trump's meme coin. I'm going to do 2 people here. But again, Trump has enriched himself. And if you guys don't know how it works, essentially, oh, KG, you're KG. Oh, thank God. I was just talking about you yesterday, and I was saying I was so sad that I didn't think you'd be able to find me. I'm so glad that's you, and I didn't put it together. You're Kevin Garnett. That's Kevin Garnett from Houston. I'm so happy that you ended up finding this place. 78 and fans is comfy, she says. Right on. She's listening in Houston. That just picked up my day. I'm going to have a good weekend now that I know you found me. Sorry I didn't give a chance to give you a heads up, but it turns out the only people that get long runways are the people that are accused of stalking at that company. So if Trump, the quote is, if Trump was putting his name behind it, it must be a legitimate investment. She put $2,000 of her savings into the Trump meme, At the end of May, her Trump holding was worth less than $120. She now thinks it was a pump and dump scheme. Now, yeah, it's Kevin Garnett, the basketball player, is in my chat right now with two flamingos as his profile picture. Um, but so she lost over 90% of her money. And for those of you that don't understand how this pump and dump scheme works, Trump knows that his followers will buy whatever they tell him to buy because they most certainly aren't thinking for themselves. They put that they put their money in there. All of the millions of Americans putting their money into Trump's meme coin skyrockets the price, which Donald Trump has the most of. And then once he thinks that the bulk of his followers have put their money in before they get wise to it, he takes all of his coins and pulls them out, and then the price of it tanks. And then the people who put a couple $1,000s worth in see it tank, and they're like, oh, Christ, I got to get the rest of my coins out there before it tanks any further, causing the price to even plummet further than that. And the article goes on to explain the exact metrics by which that took place. A second person, Matt, a 45-year-old machinist in Indiana, put $40,000 in Donald Trump's meme coin. A direct quote from Matt: when a stock has presidential backing in a way, at least from his sons, you would think it would go up. Matt's shares have dropped 79% in value since he bought them for a loss of $32,700, meaning he has about $7,300 remaining from his $40,000 investment. He does not blame the Trump family. He said he believes Democrats and anti-Trump investors are taking short positions. So in other words, the sitting president of the United States, Native Gamer says, look, I want to feel sad for these people. Laney says, so he's getting what he's voting for. Sensei's just sending a bunch of laughing emojis. Rusty says, LOL. KG says, you can't fix stupid. Anna says, FAFO. The list goes on and on. This goes to show you, and like, I really want you guys to cling to this. Don't defend Democratic corruption, but also don't make it the crux of the conversation anymore. Like, and I'm not saying engage in whataboutism, because inevitably that's your guttural reaction, right? When someone's like, oh, Nancy Pelosi insider trading, you want to talk about insider trading. And then you immediately start listing all the shit that Trump's done, right? That's like instinctive. Gamer says, but we're a decade in of the man is a con man with decades long history of being a con man. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Like, I feel it's Blue Canary says Darwin's Law. I'd almost feel bad if they weren't so loud and obnoxious and so performative in when they feel outrage. 10% for the big guy. Remember how many times we heard that, and yet people can't seem to find themselves holding this orange jackass to account. Leaves a lot to be desired. And it goes to show you they do not care about corruption. They care about scoring political points. And it's time to stop pretending otherwise. Because it's so flagrant. I just described to you how a rug pull works. And these MAGAs come away from that after the litany of examples. Oh, Donald Trump bankrupted a casino. Oh, he didn't pay the people that put the blinds up at his apartment complex. Oh, he created a university. Oh, he decided to sell steaks at a sharper image. All of these failed opportunities that somehow keep making him money. And like, I get it, because like, if the idea of failure is enough to make you stop quitting, then the fact that I got fired means that I should stop doing media. I used to give them the benefit of the doubt before I realized exactly how stupid these people are. Because yes, a lot of times you're not going to hit on your first effort in life, and I think you need to be willing to dust yourself off and try again. And I can recognize how somebody might perceive that as being the encapsulation of the American spirit. And I realize some of you are rolling your eyes at that idea because you realize what a con man and a jackass he is. But I can believe if you just genuinely don't trust Democrats, the idea that he declared all these bankruptcies and does all these things in terms of screwing over contractors and voters, you might be able to ignore it. There is no ignoring the logistics behind a Trump coin. There is no way to ignore the obvious thing that happened. The Trump family had the bulk of the coins. They waited for the morons to buy their share of the coins, ripped the coins out the second their shares out, the second they realized that they had maxed out their capacity. And then somehow it was the dams. I bet you Hunter Biden had something to do with it. Like, you're too stupid to breathe after a while. I don't understand it. Anna says if each failure robs the people around you, maybe he didn't fail. That's a fair assessment. Robert says if he's from Indiana, a fellow Hoosier, they will bend themselves into all manner of pretzels to defend Trump here. Hoosiers are, as a plurality, will not leave Trump. But like, this should be eye-opening to everybody. The idea that Democrats have spent the aftermath of the primaries in New York and the primaries in Denver saying, let's not reach out to the left. Let's reach out to the disaffected MAGAs mad about the economy. The fact I realize two people does not a group make, but the idea that there are people willing to blame the Trump coin rug pull on Democrats means that there isn't a large enough chunk of disaffected MAGAs for the Democratic Party to pursue, and they should actively begin engaging in left leaning politics because MAGA's not waking up. All right? It's pissing me off now the further I get into it because it's a layer of stupidity that cannot be avoided anymore. And I wasn't allowed to call people stupid for the last 4 years. For those of you that are longtime listeners, you might remember me always going, now, I would never call anybody stupid, but this feels like stupid behavior. That was me finding my workaround because I was told I'm not allowed to call stupid people stupid anymore. Now, waka waka, I'm allowed to say whatever I want. And if you're blaming Democrats for the fact that your orange dad president screwed you over in a cryptocurrency scheme, you might just be stupid. And that's not, you can get smarter. You can read books, you can educate yourself. And I'll be like, oh, you're not as stupid as you used to be anymore. That's good. Don't expect me to stop saying it just because it hurts your little fifis. Facts don't care about your feelings, snowflakes. Always remember that. Let me check my Facebook comments here really quick. Okay, no, we're up to date here. And I appreciate you guys all bopping around. Remind people to like, follow, and subscribe, whatever platform you're listening to, and go check out my link tree. It has all my platforms so you can stay up to date on everything I'm doing, see all the stuff I post. And starting next week, much to some of the people in my Discord chat's glee, I'm going to be significantly more active on all social programs, social platforms because I finally have the software and hardware about where I need it to be, assuming I don't run into any OBS snags. Cassandra says, I forgot the figure, but the total money people spent on the Trump coin is almost the exact profit Trump saw. Reported from it. Straight up just took the money. And again, like, I never did a segment on the plastic Trump straws where there were a bunch of morons buying $15 plastic straws with Trump's name on it. Um, because people are allowed to be stupid with their money. That's absolutely fine. It's the reasons why I am anti gambling apps these days. Not even to say I won't gamble once I have my affairs in order, but I mean, I'm not going to be sitting here being like throw money in my Venmo and then go and gamble because I'm not a jackass. But I don't like the idea it's becoming legal anywhere because I think there's a lot of people that are bad with their money, and I think the idea that people will pay $15 for a Trump straw kind of highlights that. But I also know anybody listening to this show isn't buying the $15 plastic straws. So I don't even begrudge Trump for taking advantage of idiots. The golden shoes, the Trump phone, like just don't buy it. Like, go for it. I think it's tacky. I think he may as well be selling pillows via infomercial. But whatever. Only the diest of diehard people that are going to keep funneling their money into this people are going to be the ones that fall for it. If they want to ship their life savings off to a billionaire while they can't afford dental processes, right on. Go ahead and be dumb. Just don't sit there and talk to me about Mexicans and black people on the other side of it, because the reason you're struggling in life is you. Robert says Indiana is upset with their leading politicians. Trump supporters all. They will gladly vote them out and turn around and replace them with new Republicans that vote just like they replaced. I'm sure. I'm sure. Um, and we're watching that happen in a lot of places. And again, if that's how they want to remake the Republican Party, if Democrats can't figure out how to beat what is happening, this show will be dedicating its efforts to be developing a third party. If Democrats can't beat what's happening, it's time to move on from the Democratic Party. Because Plattner, El Sayed, Francesca Hong, Raman, Mondani, Kiros, whatever the woman's name is, it's the mayor of Seattle. Keep going. And AppTap says there already are third parties. Agreed. Agreed. But you and I both know. And AppTap, I asked you if you want to come on my show one day, and I think you're a very bright dude, and I would love to have this conversation with you. Because I think you and I agreed 95% of the time, except for I'm a harm reductionist, and you think we got to get somewhere otherwise. Green Party doesn't have it in 2028, and they're not going to. The Working Families Party doesn't have it right now. We need ranked choice voting, and we need the third parties to get their shit together. And then I'm willing to engage in that. But as it stands right now, the idea that a third party, like, I'd be down to get there for 2028, but everybody's got to get their shit together right now, because from what I'm seeing in terms of excitement, because otherwise you're just throwing the vote away. And while I don't believe what the Democratic Party offers is much better than what the Republican Party offers, it's better. And in my world, my perfect worldview, and I hope this makes sense to you. I hope this makes sense to you here. My goal in terms of how I would like to see politics be affected by the sound of my voice is I want to see the Democratic Party represent the right wing of politics. And I want to see it soon. DSA is good, but like Sensei, talk to AppTap about it. And I don't want to have a conversation just on TikTok because we're streaming to a lot of places. Message me, AppTap. I think you'd be good for this show. I think you have a lot of good ideas. I'm not fighting with you here, but I'm just saying AppTap would tell you the DSA isn't far left enough or serious about what they're suggesting. And so, like, that's what I'm saying. Some type of opposition to the two-party system is too fractured right now. As it stands right now, everybody thinks they have the best ideas and nobody's willing to consolidate around that. 70 million people stayed home. Exactly. Because 70 million people don't buy into this two-party system. And I'm one of them. I swear to Christ, I'm one of them. But, like, there has to be some point. It can't just be we're going to do nothing for 20 years and then things will be better. That can't be the strategy. But I feel you, and I have left my neighborhood, and I hang out with communities that are not my own. I'm not even in the town that I grew up in right now. Like, I promise you, I have seen parts of this country that I think a lot of people who talk about politics oftentimes speculate about rather than going to live it. And I'm here to tell you that we need to get to the point, in my opinion, where Democrats represent the rightward flank of politics, where Democrats are the pro-corporate, which they are, pro-Reagan era tax rates, which they are, pro our allies in the Middle East, which they are. That needs to become the right, but MAGA needs to just be put to bed because they offer nothing. Objectively, life has gotten worse for everybody over the course of the last year and a half. Not to say that it wasn't getting worse under Biden and Harris, but it's very different. They both love Reagan. That's my point. That's my point. But I'm saying MAGA needs to go to bed, and Democrats need to be reflective of that right. You can already see it with Gavin Newsom speaking out against the LGBTQ community. You see it with Alyssa Slotkin and company saying we got to find those MAGA voters who are mad about the economy rather than reaching out to the left. You and I agree, I think, a lot more than you realize, but it's just, I kind of feel like your philosophy in a lot of ways encourages inaction. And I, I don't know how we get out of it by just pouting that there isn't a party that means business that actually represents left leaning politics in 2026. Like, I feel like you'd call Mamdani a fraud. I feel like you would call Francesca Hong a fraud. And, like, while they're not perfect, I'd argue they're significantly better than what the alternatives are, specifically on the right, but even within their own party. And I feel like I do a good job of backing that up with stats and facts over the year, but I'm glad you're joining the discourse. Helen says, I am not happy with the two-party system. I do not feel honestly in November, not happy with Democrats and Republicans and the infighting with politicians in Washington, D.C. I mean, I don't think anybody listening to this show is Helen, but I feel that. And Helen's related to me, but although I don't believe we've ever actually met. You can tell by that super Greek name. Vlahikis. Newsom was dating a teenager when he was 38. Hard pass. He's a creep. Yeah, I kind of feel like he's a bit of a jag. Like, I feel like that's pretty obvious in the way that he carries himself. But so I feel like this Reuters reporting kind of puts the idea of reaching out to the Republican right to bed. And like, as the gubernatorial candidates for Wisconsin reach out to this show, I'm going to intend to question them on this kind of stuff. Because you guys have told me you want me to work on my hardline questioning for Democrats. Because I don't think Republicans are going to agree to ever come on this show because they can't defend any of the shit they're doing. But I think Democrats view me as a safe space. But we're going to need to get some answers because the Democratic Party leaves us in a lurch quite a bit as well. And it's kind of hard to avoid that reality. Robert says messaging is the poison well for Indiana. The media here is already scaring the independent vote with the Democratic Socialist wins. But again, people keep asking me, how do you dispel the boogeyman of socialism? And I say, all you got to do to put that shit to bed is just say, so just to be clear, America had tax rates between 70 and 91% between 45 and 83. So are you telling me America was built on socialism, or are you telling me you don't know what the definition of socialism is? And watch them stammer. You know what I mean? Like, there's very easy ways. And again, I don't know how many of these people actually can be impacted by facts and logic based on what we're seeing happening surrounding the Trump coin, but doesn't change the fact that it's a pretty obvious answer to anything that they're going to say. The government said stock buybacks were illegal essentially until the 1990s. So that's the government being involved in politics. So when you tell me you don't want the government telling politicians what to do, you're telling me that the never-ending stock buybacks that have been allowed since the 90s that have contributed to wealth consolidation is a good thing, or do you want the government to start getting involved again? Like, again, you're not going to change every mind, but if you're actually listening with an open mind and want to learn about what all the candidates are offering, I feel like that's a pretty short trajectory to get to where you need to go. And I'm not saying this to you, Robert. I recognize you know what the hell you're talking about. This is the royal you. I realize now I'm getting angry. This feels like OG outside the box right now. I think I'm finding my stride again in the new. I think it's the microphone. Does that feel does that have the same impact on the air? Waka waka, MAGA. Stevie says rumors are out there that Tucker and Tulsi are planning a new party. Mm. There was a time when I would have been, oops, sorry. There was a time when I would have been excited about Tulsi making plays in politics, and that time is not July of 26. I think she's a crackpot, a liar, and a fraud. Um, See, that's what changing your mind looks like. Mickey, what do you mean you thought of OTB when I joined? It's still called Outside the Box. Um, Yeah, and if KG and anybody listening, 'cause I said you don't think you'll be able to see a lot of the morning shows. Every morning show you're listening is archived on my Ben Cominos YouTube page. I believe it's archived on the Minocqua Brewing Substack as well. So subscribe to both of those, please, as we move along, because that helps me and obviously helps Minocqua as well, who's agreeing to kind of help keep me afloat a little bit here while I'm in the interim post job, because you have no idea. Yeah, man. OG OTB. I feel that. Yeah, I wake up angry every day, Sensei. That's kind of my thing. The mic tap is a bit quieter. Maybe if I jack the volume up. Also, I'm tapping it lighter than I used to because now I care if I break it. Yeah, I'm a big Fozzie Bear guy too, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, embarrassing is my point, and I hope this kind of sheds a spotlight on the how do I phrase this, on the electability strategy for candidates going forward, because the idea that you're going to appeal to some level-headed MAGAs is just made up. I'm getting a chair and a desk over the weekend as well, and let me just say, lead sitting with this kind of posture with no back for 2 hours. I'm not an old man, but I'm getting older and I can feel it in my back right now. Robert, out of curiosity, were you listening to my show in Indiana when I was on the radio? Or did you just find me in my post radio life? Because I love that someone from Indiana found me. And I said, I wasn't able to reach out to all of my national listeners. And like 40% of my downloads when I was at the station came from around the country, which is incredibly frustrating that I kind of have to rebuild all of that. But yeah, just out of curiosity, did you know I was a thing? So I'm going to bring my share screen back up. I want to answer the question here, and I will answer it via socials as well. But I want to share my screen with you guys here as it's kind of working itself out. There we go. I'm going to bring this chart back up here. Yeah, I actually like that idea, Craig, of a Fozzie Bear for president poster. I can actually get behind that quite a bit. Somebody write that idea down. Okay, so just a reminder, here's the chart that I'm sharing with you guys, and you guys can all see this, right? If you're just joining us, um, oh, that's great, Robert. I'm glad you're here. You're a great addition. I've been doing this for 4 years. I just got fired on last Monday, so if you can't tell, I'm bitter about it still. And I wasn't fired for performance. I was the number one rated talk show in the market, but you know. If you don't say what the people want you to say, sometimes shit hits the fan. So these 5 lines, if you didn't see this at the beginning of the show, these 5 lines represent 5 people within the Democratic Party. And I was asking you guys to make your guesses about who you think they represent. This is based on Google searches. Who you think each person is. And now I'm going to give you guys the answer now. We're not going to deal in hypotheticals. So I'm going to talk for 30 more seconds as everybody gets their guesses in, and then we're going to rattle off who everybody is. And I have a feeling you'll be able to guess a couple of these. Nurse Life, I don't know who that is, but I'll have to look into her for sure. Um, all right, without further ado, everybody lock in your guesses. Blue is Zoran Mamdani. Red is Gavin Newsom. Yellow is AOC. Green is Chuck Schumer. And orange is Hakeem Jeffries. So the people that are quite literally the leaders, um, are actually at the bottom there. Zoran Mamdani very obviously in first place over the course of the last 3 months. And what surprises me most is that AOC and Gavin Newsom are viewed through the same lens. Now, Gavin has been much more vocal in terms of like clickbait type of shit, like the way he trolls Trump and all that stuff, whereas AOC's been a little bit more on point. Laney puts it better than I can. Fuck the bottom two, and I'm right there with you. Let me get back to not sharing my screen here. Bow. Yeah, so that is essentially the rundown there. And yet, the Democratic strategy, despite the fact that obviously progressives are kind of leading the pack right now, is like, you know what we have to do is appeal to the moderates. If only we could appeal to the moderates. Like, eventually, much like we're calling the Trump meme coin people morons for blaming the Democrats, eventually, if centrists are still going to say we have to go further to the center, maybe even center right before we're going to win, eventually you're going to have to learn a lesson. And that lesson might come in the form of you realizing exactly how stupid your beliefs are being reflected towards you right now because there's no evidence to back up your claims. I realize that's not scientific, what I just showed you guys. That is a trend for the last 3 months for the Google searches. Doesn't change the fact that that's who people are Googling more often than not. Where the sidewalk ends says, "Oh, so you're like hot, hot." Do you mean hot as in angry as or hot as in attractive? Either way, I appreciate it. I don't think I'm hot attractive wise though, so if that happened. Oh, all right. All right. I dig that. I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you very much. Um I'm not sure how to react to these kind of things, you know? Like now I'm being hit on via TikTok and now I'm just blushing at this point. You can't tell because I have my white light got covering for my blushing nature. But you know, um, let me catch up on some comments here. Oh yeah, KG, I did an entire thing about wind and solar as energy options yesterday that I think you'd like quite a bit. You can't see that I'm blushing. Get the hell out of here. Welcome to the party, old man. Is KG in our Discord? I hope she is. And thank you to everybody. We got a couple of new followers on the fan page on Discord as well. We got a great community there. Where everybody just kind of shoots the shit and kind of engages back and forth with one another in a way that's very funny and occasionally mocks me. Bladen says Ben, the Greek freak. I actually think I might market myself as the Greek speak because I don't think that's a thing and it's a nice play on words and it would have made more sense when Giannis still played here, but I still think it works and I speak for a living. So like, what do you think about that, Blaine? You think that tracks? I'm glad you found the place. Glad you found the place, you know? So how many of you were surprised about the way that that chart played out? Because I'll be real, it didn't even cross my mind that Mom Donnie was going to be at the top. Not because I'm anti Mom Donnie, but because I was like, well, that can't be right. He's just a New York mayor. Like I was thinking in terms of like Buddha Judge AOC Newsom. I assumed it was AOC, honestly. Um, but it's wild, nevertheless. Indiana voting habits and rural voters all vote straight ticket Republicans. Well, part of that I believe is because Democrats don't reach out. And I don't mean reach out in terms of policy. I mean they don't go out there and explain themselves. They're too scared to. And I mean, hell, to a certain extent, I watch the videos of Lee Snodgrass running around knocking on doors, and it seems like she runs into quite a few rude people. And I'm sure that's par for the course, no matter what party you are obliged to be a part of. Um, but it's interesting for sure. Rusty says Zoran equals America's mayor. That's what's funny is that was actually Rudy Giuliani's moniker post September 2001. And I would argue you're right, at least in the eyes of progressives, that Zoran is infinitely more reflective of, I think, what the mainline leftist Democrats want to see across the country, more so than anything coming out of Rudy Giuliani's mouth. Yeah, Lee's all right. I don't. Her. I think she's gonna mop the floor with what's his face that's running against her. But her stance on Flock leaves a bit to be desired. But I'm going to have her on the show probably next week. I'm telling you, one-stop shop for political interviews, outside the box, unfiltered. These people aren't reaching out to a certain radio station, they're reaching out to me. So I'm still going to be that voice for the Fox Valley and Northeast community at large, and anybody who wants to listen around the nation too. And for the record, I'm reaching out to Summer Lee of Pennsylvania. I want El Sayed of Michigan on this show. We're going to be doing national interviews on this show. I just got to get my bearings and maybe up the ante a little bit on my views for people to take me seriously. But as long as you guys keep showing up and supporting what's going on, and that includes all you at Minocqua as well, this is going to become a pretty decent sized operation. I refuse to not let it be. And I can't give away too much, but the professional studio and the way I'm visioning it in my mind's eye is definitely going to help us on that front very much, and I'm excited to show it. Securitron, good morning. Welcome to the party. I think you're new here. I'll tell you guys what, I've gone from uh 12 and a half hours of no, this isn't a MAGA channel. This is outside the box, unfiltered. Are you listening in Wisconsin, Securitron? Where are you listening from? Right on. So I was a radio guy up until last Monday and lost my gig. People view me as a moderate, but I'm actually a progressive, and most people are just politically illiterate. Um, but I hold both parties to account. Oh, right on. I do hits with Patty Vasquez on WCPT in Chicago all the time. Cool. Cool, cool. I'm glad you found me. Um, but yeah, subscribe, do all that jazz. You guys know the drill. People are asking if you're an Autobot or a Decepticon. You seem like an Autobot just based on the questions you're asking. I think he's safe. Yeah, I do have a Bernie Sanders doll in the background here. If you haven't noticed it, while I'm working on Bush League decorations as I get my shit in order here. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. But yeah, we're live 9 to 11 Central Time, Monday through Friday, and then I do a nighttime show. It's a bit more laid back. I say it's 7 to 8, but we typically go till 8:30. This was a gift from my friend Anna because I didn't have a lot of decorations. This is my Bernie Sanders, and this is my Ben Cominos bobblehead. So these guys hang out together in the background because this is like my dream scenario. Is like Bernie's like, I've always been proud of you, son. I'm kidding. My dad's great. My dad and I have a great relationship, and he tells me he's proud of me all the time. I don't need that kind of confirmation from Bernie. I just thought that would be a funny joke to make, and I think I was right. But no. Okay. Okay. I'll set that back up later. But yeah, that was a gift from a good friend of mine. But my dad isn't Bernie Sanders, exactly. So my dad's pride technically means less. I hope you're not listening today. I told him to listen today. I taught him how to listen. Um, and now now that's probably one person just stopped listening. Now two people did. One of them was probably my dad. For those of you new to the show, including Securitron, you have caught me in the last hour of programming for the week, and I tend to get a bit punch drunk. I was saying before, I've gone from doing 12 and a half hours of content every week to 17 and a half minimally hours of content It's a fuck it Friday, as it always has been, with fuck being spelled PH. Um, I tend to get a little punch drunk the last hour, and I think me cosplaying with my Bernie Sanders doll, telling him that he's proud of me, is a pretty good indicator of the fact that I tend to get to this point. But we'll get there. We're almost there at this point. Um, yeah, and by the way, for those of you that can make it, I'll remind you guys a couple more times, but there is a Rick Crossan event who is running for the 8th district in Wisconsin. And a security. Oh yeah, you said Northeast was or North. Cool in Chicago, but there is an event for Rick Crossan coming up on July 12th, I believe. I'm not good at dates or times, so I will confirm with Carla. But I know I'm going to be there to meet the guy, and I'm intentionally going to have him on the show as well. Probably closer to that event for anybody that wants to learn a little bit more about him. But I definitely am interested about what's going on. I'm not sure what city, Canary, you're going to. Carla's been posting about it quite a bit on her Facebook, so I'm sure you guys all follow one another at this point. And everybody should be finding the entire community of this show on all of your socials. That includes all of you in Minocqua as well, who are a bit newer to the game here. But everybody should be following everybody. We're building a hell of a community here, one person at a time. And I absolutely love what you guys are talking about, how you guys interact, the way you guys help me learn how to do things at home and kind of put all this shit together. So that's incredibly useful. I do have more stories planned for today. We'll see how many of them that we can get through before we wrap up the show for the day. None of them have to do with the reflecting pool, which I'm proud of, or Travis Kelce's wedding, which seems to be the main talking points of the day these days. Before we move further, I want to make sure I'm not blowing off anybody on Facebook, because I do want to talk about. Did you guys see the Tony Nels steps of Congress conversation? Because if you didn't, you said I have a request in the queue. Oh, cool. Oh, Roberto Clemente, my favorite Pittsburgh Pirate. Hold on, let me turn my phone up here. What's on your mind? I have a feeling this was an accident. It's okay. That happens a lot these days. You give me a message back when you're feeling up to it. No big deal. Thank you for all the gifts on TikTok as well as through my Venmo, guys. I appreciate that. You guys are absolutely awesome. It all helps and it all means something to me, so thank you. But so let me check Facebook here real quick, and then I will get to the Tony Nels content, and then that will probably be the end of our show for the week. But give me 1 second here. You can tell I'm rambling, and I kind of shut my brain off while I'm searching for things. Cool. All right. Looks like we're up to date. Bada bing, bada boom. We're great. No. So Mr. Nels was. Well, you know what? He might be wanting to do that. Shit, that sounds like every Republican in Texas wants to throw a sheet over the Statue of Liberty. But no, it's one of my favorite things because one of my favorite and most easily disputed comments is that no one wants to work anymore, which is oftentimes bandied about by boomers. And I really take pride in being a millennial because I believe that we are the first generation to actually not fall for that line of thinking. As Gen Z struggles to find jobs and get their footing in this economy, millennials sit there watching some, not all of the older generations. I'm not implying this is all of you. Obviously, if you're listening to this show, you probably aren't funneled into that group. But Gen X and boomers, when millennials graduated in the middle of a recession, I graduated from college in 2010. I was competing against 40-year-olds for entry-level jobs that paid $35,000 a year because everybody got laid off. And every single application for a job said we want 5 years experience. And you're sitting there as a recent college grad saying, how am I supposed to get 5 years experience if every job wants 5 years experience? Then I'm never going to get the experience necessary to get the job. And it was a pain in the ass to find work for a lot of people. And you're sitting there watching boomers and Gen X tell millennials that they were entitled, that maybe they should just end their Netflix subscription, which back in the 2010s was like $8.99, and they should order less avocado toast if they're struggling to find jobs and get by in the community. And we're all sitting there like we're on the same page that we're in the middle of the biggest recession since the Great Depression, right? And now you flash forward 15 years, and those same generations are telling Gen Z that they need to drink less Starbucks and eat less avocado toast. Apparently, it's because the older generations are now also addicted to Netflix. So it's no longer a matter of it being a uniquely millennial thing. Yeah, I was a Netflix guy when I got movies in the mail. I still have my copy of The Departed from Netflix. I just never gave it back when they ended their mail-in subscription. But um so millennials are one of the first generations to look at the younger generation as a whole and be like, "Oh no, you guys aren't lazy. You're absolutely being fucked over by an economy that is not your friend, and pretending otherwise is a lie." He was caught on the steps of Congress, and he was asked about how it reflects how the Freedom 250 celebration looks to the Trump voters that are struggling to get by economically, how the $2 billion worth of corruption looks to the voters struggling to get by economically. To which he shrugs his shoulders and says, it seems like it's just envy from liberals that are mad that they can't figure out how to make $2 billion in a year. Maybe if they worked harder like I did, they wouldn't be in the situation that they are in. So we're right back to no one wants to work anymore, coming from this right winger trying to convince the Republican voters that they're okay with an obvious fraudulent president that has no interest in addressing the shortcomings of the administration. Anna Kasparian, who takes a lot of shit for having opinions, did the deep dive on it. And since Mr. Nels is such a hard working, rugged American bootstrapping individualist, I figured we should look into exactly how much he exactly works. He called all Americans lazy who are frustrated with the most corrupt president in American history being the obviously most corrupt president in American history. The data reveals that he has missed 186 roll calls during his tenure. He literally skips work and goes on vacations and receives a six-figure salary and while trying to convince us that nobody works harder than him. This is the kind of hypocrisy exhibited by the right and the people who are running. And what's extra frustrating is KG highlights it looks as though he is not running against anybody. These people feel too comfortable. And like, there is a layer of frustration. I had a talk about this with a friend of mine off the air. There is a comedian, Greg Giraldo, who used to do the Comedy Central roasts when they were funny on Comedy Central, and very famously, unfortunately, he ended up taking his own life shortly after this roast. And I can't help but when you watch the parts of the roast and the way he's roasting Larry the Cable Guy of all people, like you wonder if that roast didn't mess with him in some ways. But Greg Giraldo was identified as a comedian's comedian, like a very funny guy. Definitely would have been canceled in 2026. Used the R slur, had some out there comedy, but it was a different Oh, I mentioned what he did to himself after the fact, and I got restricted on TikTok. That's okay. We're almost done with it. Sorry, TikTok. I'm telling an uplifting story about a comedian that I find very funny. I apologize that you decided to censor me for that. You guys are very good at this job. Um, he's roasting Larry the Cable Guy, and the entire time he just keeps screaming, "Why are you so popular?" the entire time. Because while Greg Giraldo was an underground comic, Larry the Cable Guy was making $100 million a year just going, get her done, and making poop and fart jokes. Whereas Greg Giraldo was actually like doing comedy. And the unfortunate realization is that if you want to be popular, if you want to win popularity contests, the average American is dumb. And being able to reach out to that person and speak to that person, you know you have them forever. And the idea that this person is willing to skip over 180 roll calls while bragging about how hard he works, while the cost of living only continues to shoot through the roof for the average American, while illegal wars are being started, while people are receiving worse jail sentences for allegedly messing with a reflecting pool rather than being on Jeffy E's special list. And he knows he's not going to lose his election because he's the get her done equivalent of an American politician. And it's a very frustrating reality, I think, facing a lot of us because that guy should not be comfortable in his seat. He should not be comfortable talking that way. Thank you, Ellie. He shouldn't be so sure that he can call everybody jealous and lazy because a president did a fucking rug pull of a meme coin to enrich himself to the tune of billions of dollars off of the people who are inevitably going to turn around and vote for that person. And there's an element of you that's like, you can't fix stupid. You can't, as a volleyball player, my best friend, one of my best friend's dad would always say when we would just get dragged up and down across the court. As I mentioned earlier, I was the tallest guy on our team, and oftentimes I would have been the fourth tallest guy on another team. He would look at us after just a beat down. He'd go, well, you can't teach tall. And I'd be like, you're right. You can't teach tall and you can't fix stupid. It's just frustrating that this guy's going to be able to go in there, vote to support Reagan era policies, vote to pretend that corruption coming from Democrats is bad when it's coming from Republicans. It's just good business. And he's going to win. And it's incredibly frustrating to me that the system works that way. That people can't wake up to it because the Democrats are coming to trans our kids. And other massive hits that people have. I think that's the first time I've hit a Democrats are coming to trans our kids on the Independent show. But it's unbelievable that they think they can get away with that. And he's going to. That's the worst part. They're absolutely going to. And he knows it, which is why he's comfortable talking that way. And that's Republican politics in a nutshell. Bear with me. I'm still learning how to scroll on a bleeping Mac. There we go. I'm 71, says Robert. Watched after Reagan's second term as we burned our manufacturing sector, sending jobs all over the globe with no plan to replace them. Yeah. KG says there is a Democrat. Yeah, I shouldn't say there's no challenger. I'm saying that just because of the gerrymander. That's kind of my point. But yeah, I wanted to at least touch on that guy a little bit because something tells me that guy wasn't shutting the fuck up about Hunter Biden's laptop or Hillary Clinton's emails. But now everybody's just jealous. Stevie says it's such a problem of messaging from the left, though. They don't get good candidates or a good message. They allowed the right to spread the message of what they want to the left to be. Well, it doesn't help that Gavin Newsom is portrayed as the left while acting like Reagan. Because here's the thing. Democrats say Republicans are the party of billionaires, and they're right. Republicans say Democrats are the party of billionaires, and they're right. And that's the problem, is that the actual left doesn't get representation. And then when they do, and unfortunately, I have seen regular listeners of this show shitting on the leftist candidates who have won across the country, saying the last thing this country needs is communism. It's like, okay, so wait a minute. You called this show 2 times a week bitching about the two-party system and the fact that the elites have bought and paid for everybody. And then when a candidate is actually starting to win elections that isn't bought and paid for, you call them a communist because they're a socialist and you don't know how words work. So it's just a level of stupidity that you can't ignore. And when you work for a radio organization, you can't call them stupid. They're fucking stupid. Samantha says it's not messaging only, it's also just platform. Corporate Dems platform is shit. Exactly, and they're trying to act like it's popular and what wins, despite the fact they keep losing. Robert says you just described every radio program out of WIBC in Indianapolis, in immigrants, trans, communists coming to get you. Exactly. And like Robert, like for the record, my TikTok chat's probably sick of hearing me say it, but just to be clear, um, this is how I did my radio show, minus the cussing and name calling. And it was honestly, it was a little more stat based. I'm still working on that. But when the ratings would come out, 90%, there's 1,600 talk radio stations in America. Over 1,500 of them carry right wing radio. And that doesn't even count the ones that are just like, this is the history of the toboggan. You know what I mean? Like just, or what a certain northeastern Wisconsin radio station has decided by not being political at all. So it's mostly right wing nonsense or apolitical content. And I show up like a fucking bat out of hell doing left wing policy, not liberal policy, left wing policy. And more importantly, I would be bashing Biden from the left. And my right wing listeners would say, this is why I like Ben. He's such a centrist, he's such a moderate, and he always comes with facts. I never pretended to be centrist. I never pretended to be moderate. I've always been myself. People are just politically illiterate and they assume Democrats are the far left and not the center right. And when the ratings would come out, I absolutely put every one of my competitors in a body bag. Like, it wasn't even close. I inherited 0 shares, and by the end of my tenure, I was 3 times what the right wing morons in my market were doing. And I got fired for it. So my voice is only going to get louder. And to those of you that are only meeting me for your first time, tell 3 friends today. Like, go find people to find this show. Like, we're going to require word of mouth for a little bit. I'm quite literally, next week is going to be all about socials and getting my software up and running. And then the week after that is going to be like a literal grassroots door-to-door campaign about what's outside the box is, reaching out to different businesses and companies for advertising and being able to put QR codes and shit up everywhere. And we are going to straight up grassroots this bitch into popularity because I scared the right wingers in our neck of the woods. And you will never convince me that I didn't. And I think the intention by letting me go was for me to go fetal, for me to take my ball and go home back to Pittsburgh and reassess the situation from there. I am fully intending to build my career in Wisconsin, at least for the next year or two, as I continue making things happen. And I intend to impact the elections in 2026 and beyond with the way that we think, the way that we talk, and getting that word of mouth out there, not by making things up, not by misrepresenting people, not by carrying water for the candidates that I think are good. I've made it very clear that I think Francesca Hong right now is the best candidate coming out of the Democratic Party. If she comes out and starts fucking around, this will be the first show to call her out in a meaningful and non-hack way. Unlike the other people who pretend that Hunter Biden was fraud and what Donald Trump is doing is just good old-fashioned American business. Yeah, Robert, I say it all the time. That's actually Democrats' biggest hardship is that they have the American left. Republicans don't have that. It's just the company line. And I appreciate Scoop, who says you're going to do good things here. Fire's burning inside. You're pissed off in a good way. Chris Alfheim, State Senator Chris Alfheim, actually stopped me at the Flag Day parade and said, you're causing a lot of good trouble. Keep doing what you're doing. And I got laid off 9 days later. or fired 9 days later. I'm not even saying laid off because laid off implies something else. Like I was straight up fired and sure as fuck wasn't for performance. OG Michelle, can you imagine an episode of OTB with Bernie as a guest? There's a goal to shoot for. I would like that quite a bit. So would I. Clip that, Allie. Herb says, strike me down and I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. You know what's funny, Herb, is I have been referring to myself the last 2 weeks as a force ghost. I was like, they thought they were going to kill outside the box. Not only did I not get sad, I didn't even miss a show. Like, I did my first show on Tuesday, and I think the intention was to make it so that no one would hear my voice in Northeast Wisconsin. So, like, it may be tacky, but I really am relying on you guys to spread the message. I mean, obviously, I welcome any financial support via my Venmo and my link trees, which I have been advertising throughout the show here. You can catch those on my YouTube and Facebook page. Eventually, on my TikTok, I need like 80 more followers, and I can add my link tree there as well. We'll get there, Jen. Um, but any support, and if you're not in a position to support financially, it is just as important that you tell a couple of your friends, hey, search Ben Cominos on TikTok, search him on YouTube, search him on Facebook. He's got good guests, and he's actually holding both of the parties to an account in a way that most media is not willing to do. Gamer asked if I can purchase local airwaves. You know what's funny? I looked into it because I own a building. I own a duplex back in Pittsburgh, and um I was looking into selling it because I would clear a pretty penny if I did, and then I looked into buying one, and I could, depending on the size of the market, buy one. But I don't think like Appleton is technically mid-market, not small market. And mid-market radio stations are between 200K and a million, which blows my mind in 2026. Although now that I'm seeing how much money the previous employer was making on the ads, like relative to what I could make as an independent person, I'm like, Jesus, you guys turn a lot of money doing this stuff. I'm gonna undercut the shit out of them. It's going to be very fun. But don't tell them. Um, I don't know to answer your question, Rusty, about the hand that kicked me out. All I was ever told was I wasn't kicked out because of performance and it wasn't because of my politics. Um, can't prove otherwise, but I have a feeling. But I do know that I was reprimanded a lot in the last 6 months for coming across as partisan, and I hadn't been during the Biden years. I can't figure out what changed. Jonathan said, it took us a while, but we're finding out how to connect with you. My wife was upset when you were off the radio, but now I have you on my iPad with you daily. I love you guys for that. Thank you, Jonathan. Help your friends. Tell your friends. Tell anybody. Tell your family. Everybody tell everyone in life. I'm only going to be streaming in more places as things go on. And shout out to Kirk Bankstad and the Minocqua Brewing Company and all of you listening on the Minocqua Brewing Company Substack as well. You guys are all fantastic. And if you're in a position, you should be subscribing to that as well. There are independent media outlets there still trying to do the right thing. And it seems as though we are in an era right now where you get punished for that. But you know what? We're also in an era where if you have the talent, the message, and the know how, and most importantly, the community and friends to kind of help you not be in the dumps and like figure out how to do shit and strategize and game plan and get ready to make a couple of plays. Um, you can still get your voice out there, be heard, and make the kind of noise that I was making on the airwaves. Is one of my favorite Gen Zers out there said, Ben, now you don't have that boomer ass technology AM radio as an anchor around your neck, and you're only going to get bigger from here. And in the moment, maybe it doesn't feel that way, but now that I'm seeing this community slowly grow every single day, as I see the subscriber base go up, as the comments just don't stop to the point where I feel bad that I miss so many of them, I know what we're doing here is going to make a difference, and it's only going to get louder. So, Happy 4th of July, everybody. Go America or whatever. um, uh, and I see you guys still talking about Biden. If I open that can of worms, I'm going to be doing this for another 30 minutes, so I got to be careful. Yeah, and by the way, any comments that you leave, as Canary points out on TikTok, does help my algorithm. If you click the little thumbs up button underneath the videos, that helps the algorithm push me out to more people. And you're going to start, if you follow me on YouTube, I posted my first short today on my page. I'm going to start doing that a couple times a day. So you're going to start seeing even more content from me outside of my long form page. Um, Oh, Cassandra, that would be great. She's saying she hopes she can help with the grassroots effort. She gets out and about now a lot doing Lyft. I was kicking around the idea of going back to Lyft as well, but I'm trying to see if I can make this happen without going to that. Because if I can dedicate the same 10 to 12 hours a day to content creation that I was doing when I was working at the station, that would be ideal. But I also have to see what's realistic. I can't wait to tell you guys about the businesses, specifically one of them that have agreed to work with me and what they're doing for this show. And I just can't tell you, but please know um, there are good things happening in my life and in the life of Outside the Box. So many of you have reached out from a personal wellness check and mental health check perspective that I can't mention enough. I appreciate it, but like, please know that I am more driven than ever. I'm at the point right now that over the course of 10 days, I have gone from sad and down in the dumps to thinking like I may have been done a favor and that we're going to get a much larger audience much quicker than doing things the way that I was doing them. And a lot of that goes out to all of you guys, and just know that that's real and not tacky in any way. So, thank you very much for listening today and for my little diatribe there at the end. You know, although you guys should expect human moments from me, we always oscillate back and forth between hard-hitting political news and just like a movie I saw yesterday and had how it made me feel about life and what's going on in my own personal life. So, thank you for being here. Click all the follow buttons. Thank you. We will be back on Monday. Kelda Royce, governor for or candidate for governor of Wisconsin, on the program 10 a.m. Central Time Monday. First gubernatorial candidate. If you go on my Facebook page, my interview with Francesca Hong from the end of May is still available there if you want to go see how that interview went. And we're going to have a similar one with Kelda on Monday. So be here for that, plus all the biggest news from over the weekend as well. Have a lovely 4th of July. Enjoy the fireworks and all that jazz, and we'll be back on Monday. Take it easy.